Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and welcome back to our weekly Senate election updates. And we've got about a month left before we hit the elections. And I'm actually going to do a few things before I start talking about my actual predictions and my updates. First thing, I'm going to endorse a Senate candidate in my state of Virginia. And it should come as no surprise to anyone following my channel that I'm endorsing Waters. I do not like Corey Stewart, and I refuse to vote for or even humor voting for Tim Kaine. So I am going to, like I said, I am endorsing Waters, the Libertarian. That shouldn't be that much of a surprise. Anyway, the second thing I want to do is I want to talk about the Kavanaugh nomination and some of the allegations. I'm not going to tell you whether or not you should believe them. I'm not going to tell you whether or not you should not believe them. Just keep an open mind. Realize that at the end of the day, it's probably going to wind up being he said, she said. And it's going to be Kavanaugh's word versus the word of these two ladies. And so far, all the character witnesses for Kavanaugh have said that he's a good person, and this was before the allegations were made public, so it's not they're coming in to defend him. They're saying he's a good person, and, I'm inclined to believe those people. But I also want to hear what these women have to say. I want to hear whether or not the story seems plausible. I'm not going to say what I think about the allegations because it's kind of boring what I think. I think that, well, actually I will. Personally, I don't know what to think. I'm not going to say, no, he didn't, or they're lying, or that he's 100% guilty. I think that doesn't do justice to the process. It doesn't help anyone, and I think it's the wrong view to have. Instead, I want to look at what the information is. Both women have, in my opinion, some holes in their stories. Number one, the first one, the one that supposedly took place for Kavanaugh High School, was at a party, and apparently there was alcohol being served. Now, this isn't going to excuse Kavanaugh for his actions. Part of her story relies on him being drunk at the time. The problem is, if she was at that party, she was drinking too, and you can say, well, you don't know that for certain. If you're a high schooler at a party that has alcohol served, you're drinking it. Period. Otherwise, why are you at that party? Or better, if you say you were at a party where alcohol was being served and you didn't imbibe, you're lying. I'm not going to talk about whether or not I've been to those kinds of parties, but that's beside the point. And the one that happened, and that's not to discredit her, but we have to remember that alcohol does mess up your memory, okay? As for the other one, she even admits she was drunk, and she doesn't 100% remember the events perfectly. So that has even less credibility. When even the person accusing you, when the accuser is saying that her memory isn't perfect of the event, I would almost throw that out if I were a judge. That doesn't even hold. That wouldn't even hold. That doesn't even fit the burden of proof level required. Now, as for the first accuser, let's look at what she has going for her. Let's not just discredit her, okay? What is her case? Well, what is the one piece that might actually matter? And that would be that therapy session that she has a transcript of from 2002, before Kavanaugh was a public figure. Okay, that means that it's possible. Actually, that's decent evidence. Again, people's memories in general are pretty bad. And alcohol, of course, makes it worse, but that's beside the point, okay? We have to treat this as credible information, okay? The problem is that everybody's hyping up, that she took a polygraph, and they're saying, that means she isn't lying. No, you can beat a polygraph. Beating a polygraph is easy. Too easy, in fact. That's why they're not allowed, their polygraph test is inadmissible in a court of law, because it can be beaten so easily. But yeah, it's going to turn into a he said, she said, and even if the FBI were to investigate it, they're not going to find any evidence one way or another. So it's just a waste of time and money to have the FBI investigate. Anyone who disagrees is just trying to stall proceedings. Now, as for the timing of when this is brought up, I have some words and some bones to pick with the timing of this, because apparently Feinstein had the letter for I don't know how long, for months if I remember correctly, and she didn't bring it up when he was nominated. She didn't bring it up when she was on the judiciary, when she was asking him questions in her own office. She didn't bring it up during the screening, during the Judiciary Committee hearing. She only brought it up after it was inevitable that he was going to get to the Senate floor for a full-on confirmation hearing. But that doesn't automatically discredit it, okay? So, what's my opinion of the case? We're never going to know 100% for certain if he did or didn't. It's going to be his word against the word of the two ladies, and though it does give outs to Murkowski and Collins from Alaska and Maine, respectively, as well as an out to any red state Democrats who want to vote no. I'm gonna go ahead and say that as well as an out to any Republicans who don't want to vote yes on it. Anyway, I'm gonna say that he's probably still gonna get a full confirmation vote, but I'm going to say it's Murkowski and Collins vote no, Doug Jones votes no, I'm going to say Heitkamp votes no, but you get Donnelly and Manchin voting yes, and every other Republican also votes yes. So you still get the 51-49, but it's a little bit weird because it's not on party lines with red state Democrats voting yes. It's a little weird. So I'm going to say it's right now it's not very likely. It's weird. I'd say if this were like an election, I'd say chances are this is a lean or a tilt to Kavanaugh, but it's not guaranteed like it was before the allegations came out. Anyway, moving on. We're going to start talking about the elections. Sorry about that 10-minute prelude, but I think it was necessary because it is Senate related. And I'll also give you what happens in the scenario that I'm going to push out and what happens in the event that Kavanaugh is not confirmed and they force him to withdraw, or more accurately, force Trump to withdraw him. So this isn't really an update. I just want to say this new poll kind of confirms that this race is currently in the favor of Kyrsten Sinema. I'm still going to have it as tilt until I see one or two more polls that have her ahead, because we did have some polls show Martha McSally ahead, and that kind of changed it from a lean to a tilt. I want to wait a little bit longer before I put it back into the lean Sinema category. Now we go over to Florida, where Rick Scott is still ahead. There is one poll that shows a tie, but again, Rick Scott definitely has the advantage, and he's gone on a massive ad campaign. So that's why his cash on hand is so low, but he has spent a ton of money in this race, and I don't think that's going to change. Okay, so we're going to move over, and we're going to talk about Missouri. Seriously, that needs to be a meme. Anyway, so this race is basically dead even. Some reputable pollsters have shown results where Hawley was ahead of McCaskill, but more have shown polls where McCaskill is ahead. I'm still tilting it towards her, though I think there's a decent chance that Hawley wins this. By the way, this already puts Republicans at 50. Moving on to Montana, where we have what? No nonpartisan poll has shown Matt Rosendale ahead, and Tester is decently ahead. Though the race has moved slightly in favor of Matt Rosendale, it's not enough to take it out of the leans column, and I want more polling information before I change anything. Also, Rosendale is down a little bit on its fundraising. So we're going to move over to, what state is this? To Nevada, where Dean Heller and Jackie Rosen are in a pretty tight and close and tough race. We have a poll from Ipsos showing that Dean Heller is ahead by 3. And I decided to do a little bit deeper look. I wanted to see which pollsters have polled the race multiple times to see if there's any movement. Public policy polling, which is typically Democrat aligned and has a Democrat House effect, has shown movement in general towards Dean Heller. Depending on which ones you look at. Though it has bounced a little back and forth, it's shown some movement. The SurveyMonkey Axios poll, which I think has a Republican House effect, has also shown movement towards Heller. And Gravis Marketing has also polled it multiple times, showing movement towards Heller. So I think there is reason to believe that this race is tighter. I want to see more polls, obviously, before I change rating, but at the moment it is staying tilt towards Jackie Rosen. And I had to laugh at this because it's Gary Johnson. It is... yeah. This poll shows 24% undecided, 28 for Gary Johnson, 10 for Heinrich, and Rich, and 38 for Heinrich. I'd love this poll a lot if it was nonpartisan. Unfortunately, it's a libertarian PAC that commissioned the poll, and I can't even find the information. As you can see, I clicked on the link. Unfortunately, it took me to the Facebook page for the Johnson campaign, and that's the only place I can find the information for this. So, unfortunately, as much as I don't want to do this, I have to throw it out because I can't look at the methodology. I can't look at anything, so I have to throw it out. I cannot take this poll seriously as much as I want to. And we should look at the two nonpartisan polls and kind of just average them out a little bit. I want more polls of this race. So, as expected, Heinrich is basically safe in this race. Now we move to Tennessee. Now, the reason why I didn't have anything over the weekend is because I was out of town. And I was going to North Carolina, but I was extremely close to Tennessee, so much so that I was actually in Tennessee media markets, as well as getting Georgia channels, which was really weird, but I'll talk about, but it was a nice weird. But I'll talk about that in the governor's race video, because that's more pertinent there. In Tennessee, the only ads I saw were from Marsha Blackburn. Now, of course, when I was driving there, because the part of North Carolina I was getting to, it was actually faster to go through Tennessee. So I also got to listen to a lot of Tennessee radio ads. And the only stuff I heard was from Marsha Blackburn. Now, you may say, well, let me guess, you were listening to country stations. No, I actually don't listen to country that often, or much at all, to be quite honest, because I think new country is trash for the most part. There are exceptions. You know, don't hate on me. There are exceptions. But I listened to both news channels. You know, I kind of flipped over. I wanted to hear a little bit of news, but I didn't want to hear too much. And then I listened to a lot of rock and roll stations. Yeah, so, and the only bumper stickers or signs or anything I saw was for Marsha Blackburn. Now, it's obviously not going to... now, I'm not going to factor that in heavily. And, of course, that was the same thing when I visited Tennessee a few weeks ago. But moving on. I'm not going to factor this in too heavily because we have to remember I was in the eastern part of Tennessee, and those counties tend to go Republican anyway. They're extremely Republican. And if you look at the presidential election in 2016, you see that I think only 2 counties in Tennessee went to the Democrats. But here, Bredeson's probably going to win some more. And looking at the polling, you have CNN released a poll that showed Phil Bredesen ahead and Marsha Black by 5 over Blackburn. You have this Vox Populi poll showing Bredesen ahead by 2. You have a Republican poll showing Blackburn ahead by 3. And I believe I showed you guys this one from Fox News, this Gravis marketing poll. But as you can see, from about where I really start saying this race is something to look at, well, let's be honest here. Most of the nonpartisan ones have shown movement towards Blackburn. I'm going to keep this as tilt Republican. Again, I am factoring in the history of the state, which you have to do. You cannot ignore the history of the state if you're going to be predicting elections, because people tend to, vote for who they are more comfortable with in the past. Now, as much as Bredesen has a history with the state, he's also the wrong party for national elections, for federal elections. At the state level, yeah, Tennessee probably would vote for him for another term as governor. At the state level, anything goes. That's why Republicans do so well in governor's races up in Massachusetts and Vermont, and why Larry Hogan is one of the more popular governors in the nation, even though he's a Republican in Maryland. Also, Blackburn could easily spend a lot more money in this race. I mean, moving on to Texas, where Ipsos actually published a poll. I think it was like 2 days after I did a video where I said, before I change the race's rating, I want to see a poll with O'Rourke ahead. And like 2 days later, Ipsos released a poll with that. I kind of had to laugh a little bit because that was funny. But no, that's literally the only poll that shows him ahead, and Vox has the only poll showing it as a tie. Everything else shows the same average we've had for a couple of months, but somewhere between 3 and 6%, with Quinnipiac having one showing at almost 10%, a 9% lead, and some Democrat internal polls showing Ted Cruz ahead by the average. So, as much as Democrats may want me to change this race, I can't. I have to leave it as lean Republican. Anyway, sorry about the long video, guys. If you want to leave a like, a comment, a subscribe, whatever you want, do so. My Patreon will be in the description. And of course, you get rewards if you contribute. I may also do some other stuff with that. And yeah, the next thing I want to talk about before I end the video, this weekend I'm going to be on. I'm going to join Stellar Spark on his channel. I'm going to put the link to his channel in the description. If you're not already, check him out. He's similar in vein to my videos. He does a very good job of remaining unbiased, and he keeps a relaxed pace in his videos as well, and he does his research very well. He dives maybe a little deeper than I do into demographics to factor into his forecasts, which is something I don't do as much for various reasons. But anyway, he's a good person. Check him out. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. Bye.